Hello everyone and welcome along to the final round of the Ginetta Junior official eSeries. 8 weeks of racing and it all boils down to 2 races around the Silverstone International Circuit with a championship race that really couldn't be much more finely poised. We're in for a great evening of entertainment. It's Andy McEwen here to talk you through all of the action. Big thanks as always to everyone at Perfect Acceleration Sim Racing for helping to put on such a great show, to Mick Sutton, our series organiser, to Tom O'Farrell, our broadcast director, and to our stand-in race director and safety car driver for this evening, Jordan Taylor, who is once again making sure that everyone's behaving themselves for these final 2 races of the season. Like I said, it's been a very, very long and hard-fought championship campaign, realistically, with 2 drivers sort of dominating proceedings, but at least they've kept it entertaining for us all over the preceding 7 weeks of racing that all began back in August, which does seem like an age ago, doesn't it, at Alton Park. We then travelled to Donington Park. In fact, we went to Donington Park twice over the course of the season, and we've already visited Silverstone with the national circuit for round number 3. Snetterton, Cadwell Park and Brands Hatch's Grand Prix circuit made up the middle portion of the calendar. A week ago, we had 2 very entertaining races on the national version of the Donington Park circuit, which have set the scene magnificently for these final 2 races. The international layout here at Silverstone, playing host to our championship decider. And while sometimes at this stage of a season, the mathematics can get a little bit complicated, things like drop scores start to really create some head-scratching conundrums. Here at the Ginetta Junior's official eSeries, things are an awful lot simpler because whilst, yes, the drivers are able to drop their lowest score from the first 7 rounds, that is where the drop scores end. You cannot drop this final round. So even if it all goes wrong for either Nathan Williams or George Robinson, unfortunately, it doesn't really matter. Whatever happens, happens. And it's now a real winner-takes-all shootout between the 2 of them. Just 3 points between them after those drop scores are applied. And they're in the favour of Nathan Williams, despite the fact that Nathan's actually dropping 8 points more than George Robinson. He has been very consistent over the last few rounds. So he arrives here with a very slender lead. No one else can now catch those 2, even if Nathan and George didn't turn up tonight. No one else could beat them to the championship, but we do have a fascinating race for second in the points. For third in the points, I should say. William Andremus, 17 ahead of James Pepper, who is 19 ahead of Levine Kishore and Albert Henriksen Bell. They're tied together then on 219 points. And then a little way back to Hayden Gray, Louis Neal, and Adrian Rios Garcia. So it's going to be interesting to see who ends up in that 3rd place, because there are prizes available to all of our top 3. 3rd place in the championship receives a 32-inch MSI gaming monitor. The championship runner-up will be in receipt of a Mongrip Tobacco bracelet. And then the big one, the championship winner, will score free entry to Ginetta's famous scholarship, which takes place on the 27th of October, so only a couple of weeks away. That scholarship is now fully booked, so the only way now that you can get into it is by winning this championship, and only one of the 2 championship contenders coming into tonight is going to have that opportunity. So we'll keep our fingers crossed for both of them. I'm sure they're going to fight tooth and nail for that, because that really could be career-changing stuff. Many a driver have really started a very successful racing career with Ginetta, and getting in on the scholarship is perhaps the best way to go about it. So we'll find out in about an hour who is going to be getting that free entry to the Ginetta scholarship in 2023. So that is what's at stake. We have 3 points only between those top 2 drivers in the championship, and they've been inseparable all season long. Every single round, it has all been about Nathan versus George, and very often over the course of an evening they would be separated by only 2 or 3 points across the 2 races. So if we have a similar situation tonight, we could be looking at a dead heat finish, and then it comes down to who's got the most race wins, then who's had the most second places and third places and so on. And well, look at this, even in qualifying, nothing to choose between them. Well, there is 34 thousandths of a second, though. It's blink of an eye stuff, and it is at the moment this man, Nathan Williams, who has set the fastest time, though he hasn't. James Pepper now goes quicker. Now, James Pepper has really been the spoiler in the pack these last few rounds. In the second half of the season, really, James has been arguably quicker, actually, than Nathan and George. If only he'd had this pace right at the start of the season, I think we definitely would have been talking about James Pepper as a potential champion. He has gone fastest so far then over Nathan Williams, who comes through now to start. another flying lap of the Silverstone International Circuit. So let's ride on board, shall we, with Nathan Williams as he tackles this deceptively tricky circuit. Flat out, though, through Abbey Corner in these Ginetta Juniors, and indeed through the left-hander at Farm, but then you really keep it tight to the left before you hit the brakes as late as you dare into the second gear right-hander at Village. He perhaps was a bit too early on the turn in there, clips that apex curb. You're then flat out through the link, which takes you off the Grand Prix layout, down this little link road and into the right-hander at Chapel, and send you out onto the Hanger Straight. And a good exit from that corner is so important, because by far the best place to do any overtaking comes at the end of this long drag down towards the back end of the circuit and the famous right-hander at Stowe Corner. And you can see the length of this straight, the slipstream will definitely start to bunch them all together. And it's actually quite a quick corner, fourth gear in these Ginetta Juniors, using the curb there to rotate the car, and then careful of track limits on the exit. That might have been touch and go with whether that was a legal line out of Stowe. Then you're onto the brakes into the final two corners, but so much time to be gained and lost through the left-hander there at Vale, and then into the double apex right-hander at Club. Accelerate then towards the line. George Robinson has gone fastest whilst we've been on board here, but I believe that was an invalid lap, so that's probably not going to stand. It means James Pepper is still fastest, and Nathan Williams now will be back up onto the second row of the grid provisionally. Then he needs to try and improve again, because that wasn't quite an improvement that time. And look what's happened. George Robinson there, having gone to the top, has now dropped in behind Nathan Williams, so he's looking to try and get a bit of a slipstream, maybe a sneaky slipstream from his championship rival. And that is not a bad shout, because the slipstream definitely worth a chunk of time around the Silverstone International layout. So well worth trying to tag along with another quick driver, and there's no one quicker, I suppose, than the championship leader in theory. As I've said, James Pepper, over these last couple of rounds, he's been mixing it with these two, and he could, in the end, be the difference between them, because if they keep on finishing next to each other, George and Nathan, then really there's no advantage to be gained from either of them. But James Pepper, if he can start getting in between them, or even beating both of them, that could really change things around. Nathan Williams heads for the pit lane. He doesn't want George Robinson following him around, learning his tricks, and so a fairly cagey qualifying session this has been so far. Nathan Williams makes his way towards pit road, disappears behind the concrete wall, and we can instead focus on the third place man in the championship, William Andrews. I'm fairly certain that was exceeding track limits coming out of Stowe Corner, but William actually only down in 5th position at the moment. Hasn't always been the fastest qualifier out there, but come the end of the races, seems to find himself in podium contention more often than not. Did a lot of his heavy point scoring in the first half of the season, then had a slightly leaner spell through the middle. But he, nonetheless, arrives here at Silverstone with this strong chance of finishing third in the points. Just needs really a solid pair of races. But the fact that you can't drop these points is really interesting, because it means that you can't afford to have a bad race. You cannot afford to have one of those little incidents where you get spun off the track, or, you know, knocked into a gravel trap somewhere. Because that's it. You could end up losing a fair chunk of points. Remember, you get 35 points for winning a race in this championship. You get 30 for second and 26 for third. So the difference between finishing first and third is 9 championship points. And as tightly bunched as it is, not only for the championship lead, but also that fight for third, gaining 9 or 12 or 15 points or so over a rival would make a big difference. So that's definitely going to be on their minds. And of course, James Pepper is actually Williams' nearest rival. So there's a good chance James Pepper could be up there winning races tonight. If he could score 70 points out of the 2 races for winning both of them, which is doable, then you never know. He could well overhaul William Andrews, who it seems has been sat in that third place in the points pretty much all season long. He makes his way out of the double apex right-hander at Club, heads for the timing line. And is it going to be an improvement upon 5th position? He needs to find 6/10 of a second to challenge for pole, about 3.5 tenths or so, well, about 4 tenths actually, to challenge for 4th, and he's not able to do it. It's Levine Kishore who is 4th right now. Levine's been looking strong these last couple of rounds as well, actually. Kishore had the 3rd highest point score last week and a couple of rounds ago at Cadwell Park as well. So Levine Kishore's definitely been getting faster as the season's gone on. Ollie Connolly, meanwhile, he had a couple of shining moments earlier on in the season as well. but finds himself all the way down in 10th place in the championship. He's had the odd race where he's looked good, particularly when he has benefited from a reverse grid, but at the moment only 10th place for Harley in what is a very competitive qualifying session. So the George Robinson lap time we're hearing was a lap on which he entered the pit lane. Now, it's one of the quirks of the Silverstone International circuit that he will that you can sometimes set a faster lap time by going into the pit entry, and it cuts off that whole final left-right sequence at Vale and Club, and so that lap time won't stand. He'll be given the point for pole, and that will then be taken away from him, I think, post-session. So that's going to slightly confuse things in the points. Meanwhile, Nathan Williams has just gone to second place. So it's my understanding that basically if Robinson stays fastest and doesn't improve upon that time legally, then whoever qualifies second will get that bonus point. And right now, it's not going to James Pepper. It is instead going to Nathan Williams. So bad news for Robinson as it stands then. I'm sure Tom O'Farrell will correct me if I'm wrong. That means that Nathan Williams would now be 4 points clear of George Robinson in the standings. And but of course, with a 5-point difference between finishing first and second in a race, that could very well change around again when we do go racing, because quite clearly these two are again almost identical on pace, with James Pepper also within a 10th now of pole. So we've got those three musketeers, the three regular frontrunners these days at the front of the Ginetta Junior eSeries. Once again, setting the pace. Nathan Williams slides his way through. Now, this is a good lap. Look, he's purple in the first sector. That means quickest of anybody, only by 200ths of a second, but 200ths could be enough here. Down through the Vale he comes, into the club complex, second gear on the way in, and then flat out through the two right-handers. Get the gear changes perfect. Up into third, he'll hit fourth gear, probably just on the apex here of the right-hander. There he goes, and accelerates to the line. Is this enough for pole position proper for Nathan Williams? He's already destined for the bonus point, but he wants to make absolutely sure of it. Oh no, drops some time in the final sector in the end, and so he stays second. But as I've said, that lap time for Robinson, not a legal lap. So Robinson really does need to try and improve if he can, in order to actually get that extra point. Although James Pepper has now gone purple in the first sector, so James Pepper could take that point back away from Nathan Williams. Here he is, he's got a good slipstream as well down the back straight. Look, he's 2/10ths up in the first sector alone. So James Pepper's flying, and no wonder he's got George Robinson right in front of him. So he's got one of the fastest drivers on the grid to get a slipstream from. And could James Pepper now maybe take that point away? If anything, this is good news for Robinson. I know that he's giving Pepper this slipstream that could knock him down a further place on the grid, but it could also take a point away from Nathan Williams. Through the final turns they come then. Needs to find a 10th of a second. He's on course to do that at the end of the first sector. What about at the end of the lap proper? Across the timing line they go. James Pepper, no, it gets away from him again, and he has to settle for third. So George Robinson will start from pole, but the bonus point for the pole position is going to go to Nathan Williams, and that means 4 points will separate the two as they go into that first race of the night. So a slight advantage for Nathan, a slight increase in his championship lead, but only slight. So it's certainly not going to be easy one this for Nathan, but Nathan Williams then, as I said, setting the second fastest lap time, but he will be credited post-race anyway with the pole position, because George Robinson set that lap time on an in-lap, and that quite clearly is not the way you're supposed to do things. So let's have a word, shall we, then, with the man who might not start from the front of the grid, but he's going to get the bonus points, and really, Nathan Williams, that's what matters the most. It's all about points tonight. You are now, we think, 4 points clear of George Robinson in the championship, but really, that's as good as neck and neck, isn't it?
Well, yeah, that's a great surprise to get pole. I went to the pit, didn't know I had it then, because obviously I can't see where George is. Great surprise to get pole, and obviously, yeah, the extra point helps. Obviously, I'm not starting on pole. Obviously, 4 points, that's enough to go into a race, and he finished second, I finished third, so it's good enough.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to be doing the maths, I suppose, haven't you, when you're out there? It's a bit easier because you're so close. If you can beat him in the two races, then you'll be the champion. But how hard is it when you're in the middle of combat, if you like, out on the track to keep track of that point situation? Or do you just finish the race and then take a look at the standings after?
Obviously, I think I have an idea of the sort of points. Obviously, if you're not in a battle, you're sort of working it through. You're going through your head saying, "Don't spin, don't spin." You'll have this much of a point advantage. But it's obviously still difficult because obviously sometimes you might not know about any points, or you might just be too caught up in a battle to really think about it.
And I think you probably will be caught in a battle tonight because it's that kind of track, isn't it, that promotes good, close, side-by-side racing. You've also got James Pepper, once again, well and truly in the mix. He's been a thorn in your side and in George's, in fairness, these last few rounds. What role do you expect him to perhaps play in tonight's races?
To be fair, I think James normally really picks up the pace of the race. He normally beats his qualifying time by half a second or something. So I do predict he'll probably get quite far ahead, and I think it'll just be a battle between second and third for me and George.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, well, that simplifies things again, I suppose, doesn't it? Only a 4-point difference between finishing second and third, so that could get very tight indeed. How are the nerves coming into tonight, then? There's a big prize at stake here, and we're almost within touching distance now. 2 solid races, and you could be entered for free into the Ginetta Scholarship. What would that mean for you if you could achieve that?
Well, obviously, it's a great prize. Obviously, the nerves have been terrible. It's all I can think about for probably the last 2 days. Obviously, I think it's a great opportunity to be entered in scholarship because obviously there's a chance to start a career in motorsport from obviously sim racing.
And that's obviously something that you would really like to do, I'm sure. Obviously, George wants it as well. It's going to be a fierce fight out there. Hopefully, you guys can keep it clean and put on a great show for us. But Nathan, congratulations on taking that extra point for pole position. Good luck for the race.
Thank you.
That is your pole man, sort of, Nathan Williams, who, as we've said, will have to start from second on the grid, but he'll be credited with the point for pole position. Just one of the quirks of Silverstone and the fact that we can't manually alter the grid, unfortunately, in Sim. So Robinson will still have a slight track position advantage, but as I said, I don't really expect that to be a massive advantage at a track like Silverstone, where the slipstream is so powerful, and we know that it's going to be difficult to maintain that track position. Right then, we've got about 4 minutes before the first race gets underway, and so an opportunity to remind you of some of the exciting things coming up in the near future here at Perfect Acceleration Sim Racing. Next up is the PASR Team Challenge, running from late October into November 2023. We've discussed this a few times earlier on in the season, and it's a really exciting event. It takes place over 5 weeks, 1 round per week, but at each round a different car and the different track combination will be used, and you can see the car and track combinations down the right hand side of the screen. So the cars, you've got the Renault Clio, the Honda Civic, pickup trucks, Porsche Cayman and the Lotus Cortina, and then the track list: Brands Hatch, Castlecombe, Goodwood, Park and Anglesey. But that is it'll be a random pairing of car and track for each round. So you could end up racing pickup trucks around Goodwood, Lotus Cortinas around Brands Hatch. You don't know. That will only be told to the drivers just before the event itself, so they know which cars and tracks to practice in, but not necessarily which order they will appear. They will also compete as teams of between 2 and 4 drivers, so it's not a solo championship. It is a team challenge, as the name would suggest, and prizes are awarded to the top 3 scoring teams. At the end of the 5 rounds, there's a £130 prize fund, so some good cash prizes up for grabs. And entry is only £10 per driver, so if you're interested in joining, if you've got a group of friends who you'd like to maybe come and compete with, and you think that this sounds like a bit of you, then head over to the website www.perfectacceleration.co.uk/team challenge. So that is the team challenge coming up very shortly. We've also got our next broadcast championship, which will be the 2nd season of the Junior Saloon Car Championship. We had their first eSeries earlier on in the year, and that produced some really good racing. And they are once again on board here with Perfect Acceleration Sim Racing, who continue to join up with real world championships to give them a presence in the sim racing world. And we're very, very happy to have the Junior Saloon Car Championship back on board again for the next of those championships. Now, though, the focus very much on Ginetta's and on Nathan Williams and George Robinson. Like I said, after that qualifying session, it is a 4-point swing between Nathan Williams and George Robinson. Nathan Williams on 374 and Robinson on 370. So it is going to be very interesting. This 35 points available for winning a race. And this is going to be an exciting pair of races, that is for sure. Waiting for the time to tick down then, and we will have our 20-minute race. First of two 20-minute races, and don't forget that the first of those is based upon the qualifying results. The second of those races, though, features that full reversed grid. So that is the race in which the championship will be decided, and you can be almost certain that there'll be a little bit of drama and action as we do get into that final race, perhaps even in this first one, because the title contenders start from pole. But interesting to hear there from Nathan Williams that he expects James Pepper to disappear off into the distance. We'll wait and see. It might not be that easy for James to do, and in a way, as I said, it might simplify things for Nathan and George if he does disappear off up the road and leave them behind. But I've got a funny feeling the three of them are going to be doing battle, at least in the early stages of this first race of the night, which is about to burst into life now here on the Silverstone International Circuit. Red lights go out, away we go, and George Robinson's going to get the early advantage on the run down to the first corner, with Nathan Williams slotting in behind him. So Robinson then holds on to the lead, I should say, into Abbey Corner, but Nathan Williams, we know, is going to stick with him, and Nathan, on legal lap times, at least in qualifying, was the quicker of the two slightly. Not a great start by James Pepper. He's under a bit of threat from Levine Kishore, and there is William Antremus, third in the championship, and of course, he's got one eye very much here on James Pepper, who is up there in third place. If Pepper can win this race, he could really, really close the gap to William in the points. With Harley Connolly, you get some hits sideways out of Chapel Corner there. That loses all of his momentum out onto the Hangar Straight, where again that slipstream now starts to take effect and perhaps gives some drivers an opportunity to attack into Stowe Corner, which is what Nathan Williams is doing up the road. Look, Nathan Williams, I think, is trying to get up alongside George Robinson. Is that working? No, George Robinson holds the inside line, and Nathan Williams looks for the switchback instead. Antremus, meanwhile, gets elbowed out wide. It's all going wrong for William, and through have gone Dalton Hayward and Albert Henriksen Bell, and perhaps even Harley Connolly as well. You've got the 2-2-1 there of Adrimius Gossi on the outside. Antremus gets his elbows out, knocks him out a little bit deep into the corner, whilst George Robinson has spun. George Robinson has spun from the race lead at Club Corner. It didn't even take them a lap, and it's all kicked off. George Robinson to the back of the field. Harley Connolly is off the road as well, and it's James Pepper who leads. Where is Williams? Williams is down to 5th, so you have to assume that he was involved in some way in the spin for George Robinson. Finn Richardson there recovering from a moment as well, coming off the final turn. But what on earth happened? They were side by side going into Stowe. I think they were side by side going out of Stowe as well, those two. And it didn't even take till the end of the first lap, seemingly, before they came to blows. So James Pepper leads, Levine Kishore is second, Albert Henriksen Bell is third, and Nathan Williams at the moment sitting in 4th position. So that would score him 22 championship points at the moment. George Robinson down in 10th would score only 11. So that would put a big gulf between the two of them. About 15 points as it stands would be the advantage for Nathan. It's now imperative that George tries to bounce back from this. We're on board with Dalton Hayward. He sits in 5th position. He has got the championship leader just ahead. He's also got William Antremus behind, and William, I think, is going to try and make a move here down through the Vale into the club chicane. He's up the inside. They both exit stage right, but then re-emerge where there is contact, and Antremus has got around now. William Antremus with a spin at club corner as well, courtesy of some contact there with Dalton Hayward. And oh no, he rejoins into Robinson. I don't believe it. He rejoins into the side of George Robinson, who had been starting to make some progress back up the order, and finds himself back behind Oliver Newton now in 9th position. That was a clumsy rejoin from Antremus, definitely born out of frustration, clearly, because he's now seeing his chance of winning an MSI gaming monitor slipping away. But for George Robinson, an altogether bigger prize at stake, and he will now be cheering on Albert Henriksen Bell as he tries to defend the 3rd position from Nathan Williams. Williams peeking up the inside as they head into the link and into Chapel Corner. Did that work? I think a wider line from Henriksen Bell is going to keep him ahead. Oliver Newton, meanwhile, has been off Village, so Robinson now creeps up into 8th position, whilst William Antremus is down in 10th place. So right now, James Pepper is outscoring him quite handsomely. Pepper leading by 1.7 seconds, and Antremus only scoring 11 points. So that is 24 points, the benefit, and they were only 17 points apart. So that would now put Pepper up into third place in the championship. Meanwhile, Nathan Williams battling with Albert Henricks and Bell. That's for third position, and Williams on the inside line has managed to slip through, so he's up into third place. More points gained, that's 26 points. So that move was worth an extra 2 points in the championship, and he will be very, very happy to have claimed those extra points. So, lots to talk about already. The stewards, I'm sure, are going to have a bit of a say in all of this, but Nathan Williams is doing his best here to try and salvage something from this race. So too George Robinson. Williams can't quite shake off Albert Henricks and Bell, though, for the time being. So as they head through Village, those two still pretty close together. And Albert Henricks and Bell might well try and retaliate if he can. Levine Kishore is 3.1 seconds ahead of these two. So guaranteed here, really, to catch Kishore is Williams. So it could be that second place is as good as it gets. Now, if Robinson can gain some meaningful ground, the difference in points between finishing third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh in this race is far less significant than it is if you're finishing on the podium. So there is a bit of a chance here, maybe, that Robinson could really minimise the damage being done if he can gain more ground and Nathan Williams perhaps struggles. So we'll have to wait and see. This one isn't over yet. And of course, we've then got the reversed grid race later on, where potentially Robinson will have a track position advantage once again over Nathan. So we shall see. Nathan Williams now is just starting to get away from Henricks and Bell, but not gaining actually on Kishore, is he? Not really, although he gets a good exit there from Club, much better than Kishore, and takes about 3/10 out of him through that sequence of corners alone. Keep an eye on that gap. That's just over 3 seconds as they come to the line, and Nathan Williams also now, of course, thinking about bonus points for fastest lap, because that's another thing that you can score points for in this championship. The fastest lap in each race is worth an extra point, so he will very much be gunning for that, I'm sure, as will George Robinson from a bit further back. The fastest lap at the moment, though, belongs to James Pepper, the race leader, at 120.7, and that, again, is going to be fairly difficult to beat, I think. If Nathan's prediction that James will have the ultimate race pace comes out to be true, then he might not be able to beat the lap time set by the race leader. Down into Stowe corner goes Nathan. 2 seconds now to the good over Albert Henricks and Bell there. Meanwhile is Adrian Reyes-Garcia on the tail of Dalton Hayward. This is for a position inside the top 5. And Adrian is looking to try and recapture some of the pace that he had through the middle part of the season. Really started to come good, didn't he? Around halfway through the campaign. As though he was going to be a regular contender for podiums and race wins. It never quite happened that way, but he is now knocking on the door of a top 5 again. Sails off into Vale, and by carrying that extra speed through the left, it just compromises his run then through the right at Club, and means that he loses a few car lengths on the exit. There is Robinson, though. He's up into 7th place now. 7th place would score him 16 championship points, so now he would be 14 adrift of Nathan Williams as it stands, but every place Robinson can gain will gain him a handful of championship points. So if he can gain another place into 6th, that would be 2 extra points. 5th would be another 2 points. 4th would be another 2. To get into the podium places, though, for the differential start increasing. There, meanwhile, is Adrian Reyes-Garcia. The tail of Dalton Hayward for 5th position still. And as they head down the Hangar Straight, he's a bit closer, I think, than he was a lap ago. Now, if these two start battling, that benefits Robinson. He's the next car behind these two, actually. He should have the pace to catch them anyway, really. So I think a top 5 is doable here for Nathan. That would certainly help him in his quest for the championship. Adrian Reyes-Garcia's quest, though, right now is for a position inside the top 5 in this race, and actually didn't really benefit massively from the tow down the back straight. Sort of thought he would. So Dalton Hayward stays in front for now, but then runs a bit deep going into Vale. Now this is a good opportunity here for Adrian to get that switch back. Look, get up the inside line into the second part of Club, and he will, I think, manage to go through here, will he? Side by side off the corner, and out wide goes Dalton Hayward. But yes, we are going to see the move made for Garcia. So up towards Abbey Corner they go, and Albert Henricks and Bell is now the next target for Garcia, but that's nearly a 4-second gap. Robinson is about the same sort of margin behind these two. We are nearly halfway through the race there now, so George Robinson running out of time. If he could get into 5th place, he would at least only be losing 6 points to Williams. That would put them, I reckon, about 10 apart going into the final race later on. Well, that's the difference between finishing 1st and 4th in a race. Robinson would like it to be a little bit closer than that, but we'll have to wait and see what happens. Meanwhile, Garcia not escaping from Dalton Hayward at all. Dalton Hayward trying actually to put him under threat going down the back straight, but in the second phase of the straight, Garcia seemed to stretch his legs a bit there, get away from his pursuer slightly. Through the right-hander at Stowe, down into the dip, onto the brakes into Vale. They will head again. Meanwhile, at the front of the field, 2.5 seconds is James Pepper's margin of lead. But look, Nathan Williams not catching Levine Kishore at all, really. That gap was... Oh, no, dear, that was contact. And, oh, no, well, Garcia goes off the road. Through goes George Robinson. That was a pretty easy pass in the end. So Robinson now moves up into 6th position. But that was definitely another bit of clumsy driving there, I think, really, going into the second part of club. Whether Dalton Hayward might find himself in a little bit of trouble for that. Garcia drops down into 10th. That means it also benefits William Antrobus, who's now up into 8th position. So he is now being outscored by 21 points by James Pepper. So he was, 17 ahead. So that would put them only 4 points apart as well, going into the decider a bit later on. Whoever writes the scripts for this championship has been working overtime, I think, tonight already. We are only halfway through the first race of 2. And a bunch of cars now, actually, all getting themselves quite close together, aren't they? Antrobus 7th, Armstrong 8th, Hayden Gray 9th, Adrian Reyes-Garcia 10th, and Harley Connolly, after drama earlier on, is in 11th position as it stands. Out of club corner they head, and George Robinson ahead of Dalton Hayward now, so that is 5th position. So 5th place would be worth 20 championship points, so another 2 points gained with the pass on Dalton Hayward. So that is very good news indeed. And whilst all of this has been going on, conversations going on behind the scenes as well regarding the qualifying results. They are going to remain provisional, I believe, but we are going to take the results from qualifying as the server is saying for now. So that would mean that actually George Robinson gets that extra point over Nathan Williams. So we will adjust that on the old point spreadsheet, which is being given a real workover already tonight. This, as I said, is only the first race of the night. So that means, I think, and again, Tom can confirm if this is right or not, 8 points as it stands between the two of them in Williams' favour. 399 as it stands for Williams, as he sits in 3rd, and George Robinson 391 because he's up into 5th position, but he's 5 seconds behind Albert Henriksen Bell. Can he catch Albert Henriksen Bell is the next question. Well, Robinson's fastest lap is 1:20.9. That is a full second quicker than Henriksen Bell has gone. So he could well catch him before the end. In fact, Henriksen Bell does a 22.7 and a 20.9 for Robinson. So the answer is yes, definitely he can catch Albert Henriksen Bell. While this battle going on still here towards the back end of the top 10, Armstrong 8th. Reyes-Garcia 9th, Hayden Gray 10th, and Harley Connolly in 11th. William Antrobus getting away from them now, up in 7th position. So William Antrobus is actually getting something decent out of this race now. Only now being outscored, as I said, by 21 points by James Pepper. Well, 22 actually, because Pepper's got the fastest lap. Out wide goes Harley Connolly, and holds on to 10th position despite the best efforts of Hayden Gray to slip through, and then Harley runs a bit wide going into Chapel as well. That's going to, again, give Hayden a bit of a run down the Hanger Straight. Towards Stowe Corner, Harley actually getting away slightly there from Hayden. He's getting a good view of Adrian Reyes-Garcia having a go at Luke Armstrong up the road. Luke Armstrong in the purple car, really defending the inside line, and Adrian tries to go right round the outside. In fact, I think he tried to turn into the corner, didn't realise that he still had a slight overlap against the 8th placed driver. Now the inside into the Vale, late on the brakes. Harley Connolly's late on the brakes as well, and almost runs into the back of Armstrong, who does have to concede the position. Connolly gets into the back of him there. I think he had Hayden Gray looking up his inside as well. There's a touch there too. It's all getting very touchy-feely here at the back end of the top 10. Garcia, now he's gone through, starting to really pull clear at the front of this group. Connolly looking to the outside of Armstrong. That's a great camera shot, isn't it? As they slide into view through Abbey. That's a less good camera shot because we end up seeing some contact on it, and that's Harley Connolly on par racing. Well, I think they'd be calling 4 if that was the shot off the tee, because he exited stage right and ended up in a part of the Silverstone circuit that he did not want to be exploring today, and didn't see from that angle whose fault that was, but definitely some side-to-side contact, and poor old Harley ended up down in 11th place. Hayden Gray, though, not deterred, is now on the attack, trying to take 9th from Luke Armstrong. And looks to the outside, but then sort of hits that wall of air from pulling out of the slipstream, and is not going to be able to make the pace or the place all that easily after all. Tries instead to cut back to a late apex at Stowe. That doesn't really work though, because it's quite a quick corner in these Ginetta Juniors. Is he going to try the lunge into Vale? Well, Armstrong covers the inside line, so Hayden tries the outside. Hopping over the curb goes Armstrong. This is surely going to give Hayden Gray a better run out of club corner, which it does, but not enough to get up the inside into the second part, so it's going to be a bit of a drag race down the pit straight, I think. Meanwhile, worth keeping an eye on that 4th place battle as well. Albert Henriksen-Bell has nearly been caught by George Robinson. We'll get to that in a second, because Hayden Gray has got to the inside of Luke Armstrong. This for 9th position, and as they go side by side through Abbey Corner, that should favour the car on the inside, which it does, and Hayden Gray has slipped through. So, whilst that's all going on, this is George Robinson. He is already in 5th position. If he can gain another place, though, that's another 2 championship points that he would gain. As it stands, we think he's 8 points adrift of the championship lead. If he can gain another position, that will be 6 points the deficit. He's not going to catch Nathan Williams in this race because he's 11 seconds or so behind, but it's been a really good effort, this, from George Robinson, just to try and get into this 4th position. There's a gap left up the inside, in fairness. I think Albert knew that George was quicker than him there, and doesn't necessarily want to get too much in the way of the championship contender. Through goes George Robinson then up into 4th spot, and Albert Henriksen-Bell, I think, will now sit behind him and just take the points for 5th position. So across the line they go. Time for another couple of laps at least, though. Of course, the leader is some 15 seconds or more up the road from these two. That race leader being Jace Pepper. Oh, hello. That was Albert Henriksen-Bell maybe trying to get to the outside through Abbey Corner, but that didn't pay off, predictably. So Robinson up into 4th place then. That is now 22 points being scored. That is now a 6-point difference between the two of them. Pepper, meanwhile, James Pepper out in front, setting another new fastest lap of the race, and virtually down to his qualifying pace now. That really is astonishing. It's not necessarily that he gets quicker between qualifying and the race, but he's just able to maintain his qualifying pace throughout the 20-minute races, whereas everybody else is a few tenths off that. So James Pepper simply dominant here. Levine Kishore still sat in 2nd place, remember. Haven't seen much of him, but he's having a nice quiet race. Oliver Newton there gets well out of the way of Nathan Williams, who has been doing his best to try and bridge that gap to Levine, but I just don't think he's quite going to get there. 2 more laps to go, and he's still 2.5 seconds adrift, nearly 2.6 seconds actually, and lapping actually slightly slower that time around. So Levine Kishore should be safe enough in 2nd position, barring any mistakes. Of course, if it were to change hands, that would have big championship implications. There is Levine, who comes into this final round 5th in the points. Now, he's a further 19 behind James Pepper, so Pepper gaining good points here on William Antrobus, so too is Kishore, but he's losing a few more points now to Pepper, so really is Pepper versus Kishore, I think, for that 3rd place. We'll have to see who comes out on top after that reverse grid race later on. We saw what a dramatic opening lap it was to this race. Well, imagine what's going to happen when we invert the finishers from this one. Put our championship frontrunners deep in the field. if it is going to be just a 6-point difference between the top two, well, if one of them wins and the other is third, that would be enough for perhaps that still to switch back around. We'll get to that when we get there. We are, for now, about to start the final lap of our opening race of the night here at Silverstone, and James Pepper in very dominant form, as we've seen a few times, really. But this has been a race where, honestly, he's not looked like making a mistake, has he? Whereas there has always been a bit of a mistake in him at previous rounds. I remember Brands Hatch, every time we cut to him out in the lead of that first race, it almost looked like he was going to make a mistake, go off the road, throw away the race win. But he's come on a long way, even in just the last few weeks. And he's quite clearly now the pace setter in the field. Not going to be enough for a championship campaign this time, but hopefully we'll have him back here at Perfect Acceleration Sim Racing in the future. And he might well be a title contender on that occasion. For now, though, he's half a lap away from claiming another race victory in this championship as he heads down the Hanger Straight towards the braking zone at Stowe Corner. Levine Kishore 3.2 seconds behind. James Pepper's certainly not been coasting home, though, so Kishore's done well, actually, not to lose a huge amount more time since things all sort of settled down a few laps in. It was, I think, about 1.7 seconds back at one point. It's doubled, but no, it's not terrible, given the pace that we know James Pepper usually has. He drops down then into Vale, into Club, and James Pepper 3.2 seconds up the road, but he is going to claim the victory anyway. Out of the final turn he comes. Car number 28 is a winner again in the Ginetta Junior official E-Series. James Pepper wins the first race of the night here at Silverstone, and with it, moves into third place in the championship. Second place goes to Levine Kishore, and third for Nathan Williams. So Nathan Williams is going to score 26 points for that. Fourth place, though, will be George Robinson, only one place behind. He loses 4 championship points, and that means that we think they are now 6 apart. But we'll wait for the server to officially update that in a moment or two. Albert Henriksen Bell comes home in 5th, Dalton Hayward 6th. William Andrews is going to come home in 7th position. There was a bit of a spin there. That's Garcia who's got off at the final corner. And he, I think, will still rejoin in 8th position. But quite how he got there, I'm not entirely sure. But some more side-by-side action towards the line as well. And that was Luke Armstrong closing the door pretty aggressively on Hayden Gray. But it is James Pepper who claims another win in the Ginetta Junior Championship. And he will be very, very happy with that, I'm sure. Nathan Williams was right when he said that he thought James was going to disappear up the road. That is exactly what happens. Let's get the thoughts then, shall we, of our podium finishers, starting with our race winner, and James Pepper joins us again in the commentary box. James, congratulations. Not quite a lights to flag victory. There was a bit of action there in the early stages, but a pretty dominant win once you settled in out in front. What was your view, though, of what kicked off on the first lap?
I mean, I could always see something happening between Nathan and George. It was inevitable, I suppose, but at the end of the day, I just had to keep my nose out of it, and luckily, well, not luckily, but for me, luckily, they came together, and the result is what it is.
Yeah, you were only too happy to pick up the pieces, but were you confident that you were going to have the pace to win that anyway? I know Nathan, when we spoke to him after qualifying, thought that you were going to get past and disappear up the road regardless. Is that what you were thinking might happen?
Well, I didn't think I had too much more pace than Levine, especially after qualifying. But it was just on pure pace that I managed to pull the gap, and at the end, I was starting to struggle on tyre wear. But I managed to punch the lap in to get fastest lap, I think, as well. So, really happy with that.
Yeah, you did. You got that bonus point for the fastest lap too. We're waiting for the points to officially update, but we reckon that's probably now enough to put you up into third place in the championship. That was always the target coming into tonight, wasn't it? And you've done a big part of the hard work, but now you've got to survive a reversed grid race from the back. So do you change your game plan maybe in this race and try and be a little bit less aggressive just to make sure that you stay out of trouble?
I mean, it's nice to be that bit further ahead than William in this race, but at the end of the day, it's unpredictable, and I've just got to keep my head down and just try to get through the field.
Excellent. Well, we wish you the very best of luck with that, James. Congratulations on another race victory, and who knows, we might be talking to you again at the end of race number 2. Good luck.
Yeah, thank you.
So that is James Pepper then, our race 1 winner. Second place, and someone we really didn't see a lot of in that race, unfortunately, was Levine Kishore, but Levine won't mind because it means that he had a pretty clean, quiet, and uneventful race, which is not always the case in this championship, is it, Levine? So satisfied, I'm sure, to get home in second place. Oh, we're not hearing Levine if he is there. Let's try again. Levine Levine has left now, so we'll try and get him back in a moment or two. In the meantime, then, let's chat, shall we, to our championship leader. And Nathan, that was a dramatic race, as always. It didn't even take you and George a lap before you came to blows, it seems. We didn't actually see exactly what happened on the stream, so perhaps you could talk us through it from your perspective.
Well, from my opinion, it's very similar to our Donington crash in the final chicane, whereas I think it's just I was squeezed off a bit, and then I think obviously I can't really back out because with James so close, that would have put George in the lead and me in third if I tried to back out. So obviously I think I just tried to keep my foot in, and maybe that didn't work out for me. Obviously, very unfortunate for George. Obviously, luckily he got back up to 4th place, and obviously going to the final race now ahead on points.
Yeah, only a small margin between you. We've got it at 6 points your advantage as it stands. So you've got to just try and keep him ahead, haven't you? If you can be a position or two clear of him, that should be enough. So are you focusing more on him in this race, or just focusing on yourself and trying to get a good result for you?
I think it's entirely focused on my battle with George, because obviously, realistically, if we finish 10th and 11th, it doesn't matter, because then that gives me a championship. I'd much rather just me and George battle for the race, obviously holding them back a bit, and obviously hopefully then end up taking the championship win.
It's difficult though, isn't it, to execute that sort of a plan, because you, George and James, you've clearly got the pace over the rest of the field, so inevitably you're going to have that speed to keep moving forward and to keep gaining ground, so you can't really turn down those opportunities. You've just got to be really careful that every move you make is a decisive one and a clean one.
Yeah, because obviously one move can completely end the race or the championship for either of us. I think obviously a goal is to get through as quick as possible, but you also have to keep that in mind. Obviously, if it's a move that's risky, like round the outside, obviously you might want to just leave it, and hopefully, especially if George is behind me, obviously I think that I'll definitely just try and avoid risks and hopefully just finish as high as possible, and hopefully within 6 points of George.
Excellent. Well, very best of luck, Nathan. It's been a fantastic championship regardless, and let's hope that you two can continue to put on a good show in the final race. Well done on the podium, though, and good luck for the decider.
Thank you.
So we hear there from Nathan Williams. This is provisionally what the points look like now. 6 points between Nathan Williams and George Robinson after that first race. And then look behind, James Pepper just 3 now ahead of William Antrobus. Now just doing some quick maths, 59.69. Yeah, it's still mathematically possible for Levine Kishore to finish in third. And I don't think it's quite mathematically possible for Albert Henriksen Bell. I suppose he could if he won with the fastest lap, but it's very unlikely. So realistically, James Pepper versus William Antrobus and Levine Kishore for third, and that is going to be a fascinating battle as well. But all eyes, I'm sure, in the early stages will be on Nathan Williams and George Robinson, who once again will find themselves starting next to each other, basically on the grid, just quite a bit further down the order than we're used to seeing from them. They're going to be starting 10th and 11th. Robinson ahead of Williams, and of course James Pepper coming from a couple of places behind them, gunning for a double race victory. I'm 99% certain in saying that James Pepper hasn't done that this season. He's won races, but hasn't done the double yet. He's had the pace to do it, probably on the last 2 or 3 events, but it's just not quite worked out for him. So we'll wait and see if he's able to do that here tonight. Oliver Newton, though, starts from pole position. Finn Richardson for company on that front row, with Hayden Gray and Luke Armstrong row 2. Harley Connolly and Adrian Reyes-Garcia share the 3rd row, ahead of William Antrobus and Dalton Hayward row 4. Albert Henriksen Bell and George Robinson are on the 5th row, ahead of Nathan Williams and Levine Kishore row 6, James Pepper row 7, and that is your lot. So nerves rising, I'm sure, nerves jangling for George Robinson and Nathan Williams. If, theoretically, Robinson can win this race, then it means that Nathan really does need to try and finish in 2nd place, especially if George sets the fastest lap. There's a good chance, isn't there, that James Pepper will set that fastest lap again and take that out of their hands a little bit. So if they can get up into the podium places, then George Robinson needs to try and keep James Pepper behind him, but ahead of Nathan Williams, and that's going to be a lot easier said than done. Right then, the red lights are about to go on for the final time in the Ginetta Junior official E-Series. It is the championship decider here from Silverstone. 6 points between our top two in the championship. Who will lead at the end of our final 20-minute race of the night? Let's find out. Off towards the first corner they go, and there you can see George Robinson and Nathan Williams both making reasonably good starts, but not gaining any ground yet from further down the order. Through the first turn they go, Finn Richardson and Oliver Newton side by side through Abbey. And on the way up into the pinch point at Village, this is getting dicey already. They're 3 wide here ahead of Dalton Hayward. Behind us are the championship contenders, and someone comes steaming through the middle. That was Harley Connolly actually making a brilliant move, and that's how both of them are around. Both of them have gone around. George Robinson and Nathan Williams are both spun at Village Corner. You could not script it. There's someone else off the road. That's Connolly. Antrobus is off the road too. That's not good news for his fight for third in the championship. I don't actually think they hit each other that time, though. I think that was just a chain reaction accident. I think Williams got sideways first, and then Robinson just kind of piled on in there, didn't have anywhere to go, and he's ended up dropping down the field too. So Robinson 9th, and Williams is 12th. So Robinson has a few positions of advantage over Nathan. But we have to imagine they both will be able to regain some ground. Oliver Newton's off the road as well. All kicking off. You can tell it's the last day of school, can't you? Down into the Vale we go. Finn Richardson leads the way. Hayden Gray in second. Luke Armstrong is third. Dalton Hayward fourth. And James Pepper into 5th position. Could he become the 3rd driver this season to do the double and win 2 races in the same night? You wouldn't bet against it, would you? He survived the lap 1 drama, and he now looks as though he is on course for another good result. Safety car, though, is out. The safety car has been scrambled now. That's interesting. I think it's maybe because William Antrobus has pitted, and whenever we do get an incident like that, a sizable one at the start of the race, we do sometimes see the safety car scramble. So Jordan Taylor, I think Jordan was just bored of sitting in the pit lane. He wanted to run some laps in the Ginetta G55, which he does, and he will head the field around. Now, what this does do, of course, is it bunches up Nathan Williams and George Robinson back into the pack again. So they are right back in the race. Perhaps their chance of winning might have gone, but they can definitely still salvage a good result from this one. And we're going to wait and see exactly what happens when they get racing again. For what it's worth, as it stands, George Robinson runs in 8th position, Nathan Williams in 10th place. So that would be 14 points for Robinson and 11 for Williams. This isn't enough yet for Robinson, but almost certainly they won't stay where they are. They will both gain ground, and the further up the field you go, the bigger the points difference is per position gained. So that is something worth thinking about. I think we're having another lap of safety car here in it as well, so this is going to eat into the race time slightly. Finn Richardson won't mind though, because whilst he was building up a nice little lead over Hayden Gray, which has now disappeared, at least this is taking time off the race in which he was going to have to start defending from them. And certainly, I think there was a likelihood he's going to have to defend from James Pepper. That now might get prolonged a little bit. They're in the championship too, though, separated by Adrian Rios Garcia, but they're both sort of right in the bottom third of the field, weaving around, trying to generate some tyre temperature as they head past the Silverstone wing and the pit complex, and on to what should be the final lap of safety car, hopefully, in this race and in the season, because we want to get racing back underway if possible, with Finn Richardson keen to try and claim his first win. Taylor leads them around. Oh, hello, that's James Pepper. Not sure where he was going. Bounces back onto the road, but that was an agricultural line taken through Village. And how he managed to do that behind the safety car, I don't really know. But anyway, we'll gloss over that. And, he's still in 5th place, didn't lose any ground from that anyway. Now, it looks to me like Jordan Taylor has accelerated away from the field, and actually Finn Richardson's accelerating as well, so he's gone early. Hayden Gray saw it coming though, he's gone with him, so is Luke Armstrong. The gap is actually back to Dalton Hayward, isn't it, in 4th position. Now remember, although they're back up to speed, there's no overtaking allowed until the line, and Finn Richardson runs wide out of Stoke Corner, and that sort of backed Hayden Gray up into Luke Armstrong. He had to back out of it, so did Luke, and that actually brings everyone right back onto their tail again. So in the end, they're all as bunched together as they were under the safety car, really, out of club corner to the timing line, and with just over 3/4 of our final race of the season gone, still to go, we are, racing again. That's Levine Kishaw off the road before the race has restarted. I find it hard to believe that he got there on his own, so if that was some contact, that will certainly be frowned upon, you'd have to say. Meanwhile, Hayden Gray going for the race lead up the inside of Finn Richardson. Late on the brakes, can he get the car stopped? Yeah, I think he did, actually. So Hayden Gray goes through. Richardson, though, tries to fight back on the exit of the corner. They're side by side into the link. And James Pepper a part of this battle as well. He's got a good view here of Luke Armstrong and Dalton Hayward going side by side. Hayward slips through on the inside, but Pepper is going to get the best exit from the corner of the lot of them. And he's got a double slipstream. Where does he go, though? There's no gap on the inside. Hayward's got that one blocked. In the middle of the road is Luke Armstrong. And so Pepper has to go to the outside line. Lost all of his momentum doing that, though. And so he is unlikely now to gain any ground going into Stowe Corner. Hayden Gray and Finn Richardson still battling for the lead, but it is Hayden Gray who's come out on top temporarily. James Pepper, meanwhile, looks to try and carry the speed off Stowe Corner, which he does. The both of the leading two off the road there. Here comes Dalton Hayward with 3 wide down the hill, and Hayward sensibly lifted off the throttle there, got himself out of that situation. As James Pepper commits around the outside, they are still 3 abreast. All of this right in front of George Robinson, who now also buys into the fight as well, and gets up the inside of both Dalton Hayward and Luke Armstrong. And George Robinson goes into 4th position. Now, where is Nathan Williams? Williams is still down in 9th, so Nathan Williams not gaining the ground on the restart that I really expected him to. So that is not good news, is it really? George Robinson at the moment on course for 22 points, and Nathan Williams for 9th position, only 12. So as it stands, George would be the champion by 4 points. Williams needs to gain some more ground, and he's just not looking all that racy, is he? Out wide, meanwhile, goes Luke Armstrong. Bounces back over the curb. Dalton Hayward and Albert Henriksen Bell now joining in the fun as well. Hayward for the second lap in a row slips up the inside of Armstrong at the link, drifts out wide, and Albert Henriksen Bell looks to try and take some advantage of that, gets a good exit onto the hanger straight. Hayward is surely going to cover that inside line, which he does. Albert Henriksen Bell tries to go to the middle. There's contact though because Luke Armstrong was still there. I mean, you can't just drive through another car. If Armstrong is there, then Albert really should have lifted there, going down the back straight. But anyway, they've all lived to tell the tale just about. As they exit Stowe Corner, Armstrong gets back into that 6th place. Meanwhile, James Pepper has gone 2nd, so he's ahead of Finn Richardson, and now sets off after Hayden Gray. Oh, blimey, that was Andreas Garcia arriving into the back nearly of Albert Henriksen Bell. He runs wide, and so actually Nathan Williams is now gaining ground. He's gone past Garcia, and he is up the inside of Henriksen Bell as well. That puts him 7th, that puts him on 16 championship points, and that puts them level, would you believe, on points as it stands. But George Robinson is likely to now gain a few more places because that's James Pepper off the road and Finn Richardson involved as well. George Robinson could be 2nd when this is all said and done. As he gets up the inside into Village, James Pepper is still bouncing his way back onto the track, rejoins alongside Finn Richardson, and yes, George Robinson is now into 2nd place. That's worth 30 points, and it puts him back ahead by 8 as it stands. I've not yet started taking into account the fastest lap, though, because really I think that will probably be set a bit later in the race, because right now everyone's really holding each other up and no one's going quite as quickly as they probably could be. Ooh, that's Nathan Williams getting his elbows out. He's up the inside of Luke Armstrong, so this is now for 6th position then. Pull this off, it's worth an extra few championship points. Into Stowe Corner they go. And Albert Henriksen Bell tries to take advantage as well, slips up the inside of Luke Armstrong, but it is Nathan Williams up into 6th position. So Williams 6th, Robinson 2nd, and as it stands, Robinson the champion by 6 points. So it's now really on Williams to try and gain some ground again. Oh, that's contact, and that's Antrobus again. That's Antrobus again, getting spun around. 2nd time he's been off the track in this race. And the 3rd time, I think, actually, for the evening, isn't it? So William Antrobus back down into 12th place. But with James Pepper up in 3rd, it matters little. Pepper on course for 3rd in the championship. He's got Robinson ahead of him. Now, this is interesting. Robinson's been gaining places the whole time, but with Pepper now behind him, there is a chance that he could lose this 2nd place, and with it, another 4 championship points. When they're 6 points apart, Robinson doesn't want to be losing 4 of those championship points, does he? Down through the link they head, and James Pepper up over the curb, gets a bit sideways, tries to get underneath the championship contender as they head down the hanger straight, and they side by side. time, more or less. Pepper keeps on coming. He's got the momentum. He's got the inside line as well for Stowe. And I think by the time they come out of that right-hander, he will likely have second place as well. Finn Richardson has got a distant view of the battle for second place. Pepper goes up the inside line. He gains second place. We're hearing Antrobus has been off the track again as well, so it's all really falling into place now for James Pepper in the quest for third in the points. He's into second place in the race, and with it takes a few points away from George Robinson, so 2 points now would be Robinson's advantage in the championship. Now, what about fastest laps at the moment? Well, James Pepper is actually going for the lead now. Look at the inside of Hayden Gray. Let's see what this lap time is then for James Pepper. It is... oh, hello, that's Finn Richardson off. Dalton Hayward is off as well. So there's been another contretemps at the final corner, and that means Nathan Williams goes fourth now. That means Nathan Williams goes up into fourth position, 22 points now his score. And that means he's now 2 points ahead of Robinson, who is still behind Hayden Gray. So Robinson needs to get past Hayden Gray here and get back into second place as a bare minimum, because Nathan Williams is 4.5 seconds behind this battle. There's a chance that he might not make the podium. And I reckon that if Williams is second, sorry, if Robinson is second and Williams is fourth, that's the championship to Robinson. But he needs to try and get on with this, because the more they battle, the closer Williams might get. Down the back straight they go into Stowe Corner. Hayden Gray is not going to move out of the way of George Robinson, regardless of whether George is fighting for a championship or not. Robinson peeks to the inside into Stowe Corner, but ultimately decides not to go for it. Right then, out of the turn they go. Fastest lap, for what it's worth, is going at the moment to James Pepper. I'm sure that Tom will let me know if that changes at any point. Here comes Robinson up the inside line, though, and he is now going to go back into that second place, is he? Yes, makes the move stick. 30 championship points, and he's now back ahead in the provisional title race. It's changing with every change of position out on track, and it is now down to Nathan Williams to try to get this gap back down again. Nathan Williams sat in fourth position, and by 2 points would, let's have a look then. So George into second position, 30 points going his way. That's Robinson's off the road. That's Robinson off the road. Bounces back onto the track in front of Hayden Gray. So he's not even got this second place in the bag just yet. There is Williams in fourth. So actually, no, correction. Williams would still be ahead as it stands. Robinson needed the win, really, didn't he? Down the back straight, and Hayden Gray trying to come back at George Robinson. This is disastrous, really, for George. He needs to try and get away and set off after James Pepper. As futile an effort as that might be, given James's pace that he's had so far tonight. But he has got Hayden Gray really now in his wheel tracks as they head into Stowe Turn for the 9th time of asking. So can George Robinson catch James Pepper and grab the race win that he so desperately needs? In doing so, of course, he might end up setting the fastest lap, which would get a point back as well, but that actually wouldn't make a huge amount of difference. Through Club Corner they head, and the gap is coming down, look, isn't it? He was quicker than James Pepper through that final sector, quite considerably quicker, actually. He was 1.7 seconds behind at one point on that lap. A 22.8 for the leader and a 22.2 for Robinson, but look at that, a 21.0 for Nathan Williams in fourth place. So Nathan Williams is catching this whole group of cars, and if he can get himself onto the podium, that might mean that he's done enough anyway. Let's wait and see. Into Village. Robinson, though, no doubt about it, gaining on James Pepper. I mean, no one's been able to match James Pepper's race pace throughout basically the second half of the season, but it's funny what a championship battle will do to some drivers. Some drivers sort of wither away under the pressure, and others well and truly rise to the occasion. George Robinson knows now that his best chance, maybe his only chance of winning a championship here, is to win this final race of the season, and he is giving himself the best opportunity to do that. He is gaining on the race leader, James Pepper. This gap a lap ago was 1.7 seconds. It is now 6.5 tenths as they turn through Stowe with just over 6 minutes of the race to go. Out wide over the curbs, bit too wide maybe there for Robinson. He probably exceeded track limits, but there was no gain to be had from it because he's lost a chunk of time down the hill. Pepper, though, sliding out wide as well. That's Hayden Gray over the curbs. That messes up his run through Club as well, as Nathan Williams starts to close in on him. Meanwhile, Levine Kishaw further back, trying to find a way past Dalton Hayward, which he will do because Dalton Hayward goes very wide at Vale and opens the door nicely for our race one podium finisher, Levine Kishaw. Second place he was in that opening race of the evening. As they come across the timing line again, he is now setting off after Luke Armstrong. He's had a solid night, hasn't he? Luke's been at the centre of quite a lot of the battling out there, and running in a nice 6th place for the time being. Right, back to the leading group, back to the championship fight. And Nathan Williams in 4th place, looking to try and gain another few points. If he can get into 3rd, it's another 4 points that he'd be gaining. And that really then puts the pressure on Robinson to try and get up there and win the race. Down the Hanger Straight there, Williams in the slipstream. He's had the better exit from the corner. We know that Hayden Gray put up a stiff opposition against George Robinson. He's going to do the same, I'm sure, here to Nathan Williams. He forces Nathan to go around the outside line. Williams has got his nose ahead, but it's the long way round Stowe that he's faced with. Desperately wanted to turn in there, but Hayden Gray was still on his inside, and they go absolutely down the side by side down the hill. So Williams moves up into 3rd position, though gets that place, and that changes the maths again into the right-hander at club corner. So 26 points now for Williams, 30 for Robinson, and I reckon that now once again puts Williams ahead by 6 points potentially. Down though into Abbey, it could change again because Hayden Gray's coming back. We saw him do this to George Robinson, didn't we? Forced Robinson off the road actually with a mistake at the first corner. Robinson is still 9.5 tenths or so behind the race leader. Didn't have such a good lap that time, but at least Nathan Williams is being kept busy now with Hayden Gray looking to try and get the run round the outside. Levine Kishaw's just taken 6th place away as well from Luke Armstrong. But Kishaw beat Antrobus to 4th in the championship. I wonder, I know mathematically he could. Antrobus all the way down in 11th place as well, so you don't get any prize for 4th place, but still bragging rights, if nothing else, for Levine if he could do that. What a shame it would be for Antrobus, though, who's been 3rd in the championship basically the whole way and might end up finishing as low as 5th at the end of it. Down through Stowe comes Nathan Williams. He's now shaken off Hayden Gray. Fastest lap, I'm going to assume, is still going to James Pepper, although, of course, we did see that run of good laps, didn't we, from George Robinson as he was trying his best to gain, but he's now started losing a bit more time. But no, he did a 20.973. Pepper's done a 20.904, so only by about 700ths of a second, but it is still Pepper who has got that bonus point for the fastest lap. So let's see what is the score now then, as Nathan Williams sits in 3rd place. So Williams on course for 26 points for finishing in 3rd. Robinson on course for 30. That would, according to Tom O'Farrell, put them 2 points apart as they head to the end of the season now then. Meanwhile, Dalton Hayward 8th position, Luke Armstrong just ahead in 7th, and they got Finn Richardson behind. They banged doors once, twice, maybe 3 times as they head down into the link. Finn Richardson rubs his hands with glee because he sees a chance to get involved in this as well. How many times have Dalton Hayward and Luke Armstrong gone side by side through that particular sequence of corners tonight? I feel like it's happened on quite a few occasions. So down the Hanger Straight they head towards the braking zone at Stowe Corner. The lead gap, by the way, 1.1 seconds. Now it's kind of static, but certainly not really coming down for Robinson. Into the end of another lap. And Luke Armstrong looking to the inside at Club Corner. Not able to get past Finn Richardson on that occasion though. Dalton Hayward then up into 7th position. Lead gap down to 7 tenths now. So 7 tenths the gap. Then it shoots back up again to 9. So George Robinson, he's gaining at times, isn't he? But then maybe makes a little bit of a mistake. Pepper has now done a 120.7, by the way, as a new fastest lap of the race. Into the closing stages then of the final race of the season. And George Robinson then heads down into the right-hander at Stowe. Is this going to be another race win for James Pepper, or can George Robinson get up there and steal Another really valuable race win that could perhaps net him the championship. At the moment, he sits in second position. Does George. 30 points, 26 going the way of Nathan Williams. So yeah, it's a 2-point advantage at the moment for Nathan. So if George Robinson can win this race, then he would provisionally be the champion. It doesn't get a lot closer than this. And it was a decent middle part of that lap for Robinson, but James Pepper just managing to keep it at arm's length. And we're on the final lap of the race as well, disappointingly. So doesn't look as though we're going to have enough time here for Robinson. He might just have to settle for second place. Nathan Williams turning his way through Village Corner. Well, after a collision on the opening lap of race 1 between the two, they then both ended up spinning at the start of race 2 as well. And there would have been a moment there, I'm sure, where Nathan Williams thought that all of his hard work had been undone. But it looks now like by just 2 points, he is going to do enough here. Down into Stowe he heads. The lead gap is down to 8/10 though. Robinson's having one last push at this. Surely too far back to have a go into the Vale, but with a championship and a free entry to the scholarship on the line, does he try something crazy? He's flashing the headlights at James Pepper. That's not going to make the slightest bit of difference though. And as they turn through the final couple of corners, it is going to be a double race victory for James Pepper, the first time that he's achieved that this season, and a fantastic all-round performance for the youngster. Out of the final turn he comes. James Pepper wins the race. George Robinson comes home second, but with third place provisionally, the championship goes to Nathan Williams. Nathan Williams comes home with a double podium finish at the final round of the championship. Hayden Gray comes home in fourth place. A good shout, I think, for the driver of the round, with Albert Henriksen Bell fifth and Levine Kishore in sixth place. Seventh, Dalton Hayward. Eighth, Finn Richardson. Ninth will be Luke Armstrong. And the top 10 completed by Adrian Rias Garcia. But it is James Pepper, the winner. It is George Robinson in second place. And provisionally with third position, Nathan Williams, we think, has done enough for the championship, but this is all provisional. We have to say that, not only because that qualifying session's under review, but also because of the couple of incidents that we saw in the two races, just in case, even if it's not necessarily the championship contenders who get penalised, if other people get penalised around them, that could have an effect on the points as well. But at the moment, Nathan Williams has done enough for the championship. Well, let's get into our podium interviews then. We'll get on to the championship contenders and battlers in a moment, but we'll start with our race winner, and it is a double race victory for the first time this season for James Pepper, who saved his best till last. A near perfect score actually tonight, James, just missing out on the pole position point, but every other point that was available has gone your way. You've got to be massively, massively happy with that.
Yeah, mega proud of that. Amazing. It's really something. And just, I couldn't, as always, I couldn't ask for more. It's just amazing.
Yeah, near perfect night, and we think it's done enough now, absolutely, to solidify you as third place in the championship. The run you've gone on in this second half of the season has been really nothing short of amazing. You've got to be super happy with your performance over the last few weeks.
Yeah, I think since Snetterton, it's just been not a straight run, because it's been quite difficult to try and get points, especially at Cadwell. That was a pretty tricky one for me, but it's been a pleasure to drive and get where I am now.
Excuse me. And of course, by winning that race and battling with George and Nathan, you obviously had a stake in the championship there as well. If George had got past you to win the race, he would have been the champion. As it was, you held on to the win. But you've got to kind of put that all out of your mind, haven't you? And just be a bit selfish, really, to try and get that win for yourself. Yeah,
I mean, I didn't want to get in George's way. Likewise, I didn't want to let him pass, as at the end of the day, it's a race. And I suppose, even if George was champion and Nathan wasn't, I'd congratulate them both on an amazing season. It's been backwards and forwards between them two. It's just been amazing to watch.
Got to feel that, haven't you, that if you'd have had this pace at the start of the season, we may well have been talking about you as the champion. So at least you got there in the end, and well, hopefully this isn't the last that we see of you, James, because you've certainly impressed us all through the last few weeks, and should be super proud of what you've achieved, not only tonight, but over the second half of the season. But a double race win, not a bad way to round out the championship, so well done.
Yeah, thank you. It's certainly not a bad way to thank my sponsors either. Ian Inlin at the Cool Camel. So thank you very much to everyone at Perfect Acceleration, Cool Camel, and thank you, and I will hopefully see you again.
Done like a true professional. Well done, James, on that. So James Pepper then, race winner for the second time tonight, and he becomes the third driver to do the double over the course of the season. Right then, let's get into the two drivers who have entertained us season long in this championship battle. We knew that it was going to be tight at the end of the season. Well, provisionally, it was 2 points in the end between George Robinson and Nathan Williams. George finished second in that race, and we'll come to you first, George. Well done on the podium. A fighting drive, that. A race win might have been enough for the title. In the end, it was only second place, but I'm sure you put absolutely everything into that.
Yeah, I think it is what it is. Well done to Nathan. But yeah, I fought as much as I could. I did the best job I could. Yeah.
Obviously some drama at the start of both races there. We didn't really see what happened in either of those cases, but race 2 really just looked unlucky, to be honest, you two getting tangled up in the kind of reverse grid incident that we see quite a lot. You came out of that ahead of Nathan, so at that point you must have thought maybe there was a chance, and you did make great progress through the order.
Yeah, after the safety car, I definitely thought there was a chance, but James just had the pace more than us, and I think if I'd have been able to win the second race, then it would have definitely been much closer for the title.
Have you enjoyed the battle though? Because we've certainly enjoyed watching it season long, really, and you can't at any point afford to let off the gas, can you? Because if you have a bad result, you know that Nathan was always there to capitalise, and the same vice versa as well. So it's a lot of pressure, but are you the kind of driver who really enjoys those quite intense championship battles?
Yeah, I definitely enjoyed it. Yeah, it's just a shame that I didn't win. Otherwise, I would have enjoyed it much more.
Of course. But there is no shame in coming second after what has been a supremely good campaign from the two of you. George, well done on second place in the race, and you will be receiving that Mongrip bracelet as well as the championship runner-up, and that is something to be happy about for sure. So, George, well done. Anyone you'd like to thank? I'm sure you've had lots of people watching and cheering you on this season.
Yeah, my parents, PASR for running this championship, Ginetta for providing the opportunity as well, and Jack Dex Racing for supporting me in my real life racing.
Nicely done. I'm sure it's not the last that we're going to see of George Robinson. Very best of luck for the future, George, and well done on that second place in the championship.
Thanks, Andy.
So George Robinson then comes home in second in the race, second in the points, but in the end, a pair of third place finishes from our final round of the championship was enough to net the title for Nathan Williams, who joins us now. And Nathan, for the first time in what must seem like a very long time, you can catch your breath and reflect on that championship winning campaign. On the face of it, it's not really looked like a championship winning night though, hasn't it? You've had your fair share of drama, 2 third places. Any other night, I think you'd be a bit disappointed with that, but it got the job done.
Yeah, obviously, both racing with the best. Obviously, I'm ecstatic to have the championship. That last couple laps was some of the worst of my life, because you're just sitting there waiting. Because I was 4 seconds off George. I had Hayden behind me about 2 seconds, so I was in no control. I was just willing James on, essentially. Just looking at the lap times every time. You're like, James is a tenth faster, George is caught him by 2 tenths. It's just, yeah.
It must have been very, very difficult for you to sit there, as you said, powerless really to control your fate. But this has certainly been a hard work campaign for you, hasn't it? Every single round, like I just said to George, really, you two have been so evenly matched, and that intensity, it just never let up at any point, did it?
Yeah, obviously, first of all, I'd like to say well done to George. Obviously, I think through the year it's been so close, and obviously for it to come down to 2 points over a course of a championship where there's over about 8, I think around 700, 600 points available. Come down to 2 is nothing. That's the fastest laps in 2 rounds.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it really is crazy to imagine how close this has been all season long, and particularly here at the end. But you have managed to come out on top. We touched upon this before when we chatted, but you are now going to get that free entry into the Ginetta Scholarship. It's only a couple of weeks away as well, so perhaps a bit more time spent on the sim to prepare for that?
Yeah, I think I spent too long in this car, so I think I'm probably prepared enough. Obviously, I've got the Ginetta scholarship. Obviously, now I'll be able to go to, but I also have to put a bit into. I'm doing team challenge as well.
Yeah.
Obviously, I think there's a bit to concentrate on. I wish I could take a break, but obviously, I've still got a bit to do after this.
You can take it from me that it never changes. Once you get that sim racing bug, that's it. Then you find excuses to spend more time on it. But I think you've got a pretty good excuse, and that is that you're clearly very quick. And we really wish you the best of luck in the Ginetta scholarship. Good to hear that you're sticking around here at PASR as well, so you can keep us posted on how that goes. And we're all cheering you on, that's for sure, Nathan. Again, anyone that you want to give a quick shout out to, because I'm sure you're not the only person celebrating this championship victory.
Yeah, I'd like to say big thank you to my parents and my family for helping me and allowing me to spend too long on the simulator every night. And obviously, I'd also like to thank Mick, Tom, Scott, Jordan for obviously running this championship. It's been amazing to have a go at.
Absolutely. Fantastic stuff from you, Nathan. Huge congratulations to everyone here from Perfect Acceleration Sim Racing on the championship, and we'll see you again soon.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
So Nathan Williams has done it then. He is your champion at the end of the season, and he is a deserving champion, that is for sure. Now, one more person that we need to talk to, and that is a man that we saw an awful lot of over the 2 races tonight. In fact, we've seen a lot from Hayden Gray all season long. But Hayden, we've dragged you into the commentary box tonight because you are the recipient of our Driver of the Round award, because you really seem now tonight to have put together a consistent pair of races, because you've always been fast, haven't you? But it's just staying out of trouble and sort of being there at the end of the race that is so difficult to do. So you've got to be happy with managing 2 really strong races tonight.
Yeah, I'm well happy again, because the 4th in the second race was it's pretty amazing because of the safety car as well, and once the safety car cleared, I looked in my wing mirrors and there was so many crashes, and it was really exciting to watch. But yeah, brilliant race.
It certainly was, and you have been in the thick of some brilliant battles over the course of the season. Do you feel that you've learned over the course of the last weeks? We've seen you involved in some great door-to-door racing, and even on the sim, that can really teach you a lot about racecraft and positioning the car and how to drive close around other cars. So do you feel that you've really learned a lot from some of the battles that you've had out on track?
Yeah, definitely. I've learned so much. When we first joined this championship, I barely had any experience at all on the sim, so it was. I think I've come along quite a bit, and yeah.
You're pretty new to the sim, but is it something that you think you're going to stick at now? Are we going to see more of you perhaps in the team challenge or some of our other championships in the future? Because it really does look like you're making some nice progress now, like you said.
Yeah, we should be doing the JSCC on the sim, and I'm not sure about any other events, but I'll definitely try and get into some.
Good stuff. That's what we like to hear, Hayden. The more the merrier, and we'd be really happy to have you along for the ride. So Hayden, congratulations, driver of the round for our final event here at Silverstone, and look forward to seeing you out on track again soon.
Okay, yeah, thank you Andy, and to JSCC and to PASR.
Excellent stuff. And Ginetta too, I'm sure. Hayden, thank you very much for popping into the commentary box again. And Hayden Gray, our final driver of the round for the season. Right then, time to take a look. All means for the championship standings. This is how things look provisionally at the end of the 16 race season. We have to say provisional anyway, but certainly given how tight this is, any penalties either way, you could really change this. But as it stands, it's Nathan Williams with the title by 2 points over George Robinson in the end. 2 points with over 400 points scored by the two of them. And it comes down to just the 2 points. James Pepper, meanwhile, finishes in 3rd position, and in the end by some way over William Antremus, who held on with real determination for that 3rd place in the title race, but in the end has to settle for 4th with Levine Kishore In 5th place, Albert Henriksen Bell 6th, Hayden Gray 7th, Adrian Reyes Garcia in 8th, and then Dalton Hayward and Harley Connolly completing the top 10. And a big thanks as well to some of the drivers further back who we haven't necessarily seen out at every round, the likes of Louis Neal, Liam Bradley, to Kira Harris, Archie Flint as well. They didn't do a full season with us, but we really were grateful to have them on board. 17 drivers at one point or another have come along to have a play with us here at the Ginetta Juniors official E-Series, and hopefully we'll see a lot more of them around in the near future. Perhaps some of them, as we've heard, will be taking part in the PASR Team Challenge, taking place through October and November. 5 rounds, a different car and track combination each round, teams of 2 to 4 drivers, and prizes awarded to the top 3 scoring teams. It's only £10 per driver if you want to get yourself out there. So if you and a couple of mates want to come and have a go, then head over to the website www.perfectacceleration.co.uk/team challenge to get yourselves onto the grid. You can also head to the perfectacceleration.co.uk website for information on how to join the JSCC Junior Saloon Car Championship. That didn't make sense, you know what I mean? That's coming up in a month or so's time. We heard there that Hayden Gray is going to be out on the grid if you want to join him, and perhaps a few of the other drivers that we've seen in the Ginetta Junior E-Series over the course of the last 8 weeks. Then head over to the website for information on how to do so. We would love to have you on board. Right then, sadly, that is it. That is the championship done with. A huge thanks to Mick Sutton, to Jordan Taylor, to Tom O'Farrell, to everyone who helps to put this wonderful championship together. We'll all be back at some point in the future to bring you some more top quality sim racing. But for now, from the Ginetta Junior official E-Series, a huge congratulations to our champion, and we will be back in the future.